Welcome back to the Comicverse, everyone. I apologize for the delay in this week's comic book recap. Unfortunately, an illness had me sidelined, but I'm back and I could think of no better supervillain to feature this week than Parasite. Parasite first appeared in Action Comics Volume 1, issue number 340 in August of 1966. In this, his first appearance, his name was Raymond Jensen, not the Rudy Jones most often associated with this villainous character. Since then, he has faced off against Superman, Firestorm, and the Justice League of America, and has been a member of the Secret Society of Supervillains. He has also gone through a few variations over the years, so this week, we're not only going to look at his first ever appearance and origin story, but also his latest reappearance in Superman Volume 3, issue number 23.4 from September 2013, under a different name, Joshua Michael Allen, to show you just how much this character has changed or altered over the decades. But before we do, we'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe, comment, and share this video out. It really helps out the channel each and every week. Thank you. Now, let's get into it. Action Comics number 340 features a cover portraying a strange-looking being, deep purple in color, wearing green tights and emitting a yellow energy going toe-to-toe with the Man of Steel, as a crowd of onlookers are held back by police. We quickly learn that this new foe can drain life energy and strength from those around him, including Superman. He's described as a being that acts like a vampire, but instead of draining blood, he drains physical power. All Superman can do is back away and wonder how he can stop this new menace before he loses his own life in the story titled Power of the Parasite. We flash back to a previous day. Superman is helping finish an atomic project at a government lab. He's using elements he brought to Earth from a distant galaxy, elements that would kill a normal man in seconds. When he finishes cleaning up, he flies off back to the Daily Planet to resume his life as Clark Kent. Meanwhile, the scientists order a fellow named Jensen to dispose of the toxic waste left behind, and Jensen is none too happy about being ordered around all of the time. Jensen has been fired from 3 jobs this year already and can't afford to lose a paycheck now. However, as he reads the side of the waste container, he remembers that he once heard that labs ship payroll money in similar containers, just to fool any crooks looking to steal it. He decides to take a peek inside. If it's radioactive, he'll just shut it quickly. Jensen has made a huge mistake. His body is bathed in strange alien rays which penetrate every cell. He manages to close the container once again, but he is already feeling faint, as if all of his energy was used up. One of the scientists sees Jensen lying on the ground and asks him if he opened the container. He tries to help Jensen up, but as he touches him, he too begins to feel faint. However, Jensen begins to feel himself reviving. As Jensen stands, he feels different. He realizes that the scientist's touch made him stronger, but he's still a little dizzy. And as the two men continue to have physical contact, Jensen also realizes that he's absorbing the scientist's intelligence. He can feel his brain getting smarter, as smart as this scientist. With his newfound intelligence, Jensen deduces that he's become some sort of parasite, and escaping is his best option, except his room is blocked by a group of men conversing in the hallway. He decides to experiment and rushes into the middle of the group. All of the men begin to faint, and Jensen absorbs all of their strength, giving him the power of 20 men. Soon, back at his dingy rooming house, Jensen, with the mentality of a team of scientists, comes to the conclusion that the radiation turned his entire body into an atomic furnace. It takes mere minutes to burn up his energy, but luckily, it can be replaced. Jensen believes he can use his parasite powers to live forever by sapping those around him, become a supercriminal, the greatest ever. Except one thing. When people catch on, they will avoid him, and he'll not be able to charge, and then he'll be doomed. Meanwhile, at the Daily Planet, editor Perry White is scolding Clark Kent for being late again. Clark tells him he ran into an unexpected emergency. In reality, Superman was saving a falling plane. Perry orders Clark to get to the north side, where Lois Lane is waiting on Superman because the Man of Steel is building a new hospital there. Clark agrees and then ducks into a stockroom to change into his alter ego. While flying through the city, Superman has a strange feeling that something is about to happen. At that same time, back in Jensen's room, he is calculating that he has about a few hours left to live before needing to drain more from others. Suddenly, he begins to feel his strength increasing. He looks out the window. Superman is flying by. It's a power surge beyond belief. With that kind of power, he could become invulnerable, and he could conquer the world. Jensen then remembers that day's Daily Planet headline: the North Side, the hospital, Superman's hospital. He'll need a disguise. Outside, Superman, for a moment, feels weak. He'd investigate, but he is overdue at the construction site where he moves an abandoned building with one hand and where Lois Lane wonders where in the world Clark Kent is. With the demolition done, Superman can retrieve the materials needed to build the hospital. They're nearby, and that will give him a chance to change into Clark and make an appearance with Lois. However, Parasite is lurking in the shadows. He does not see Superman, but oddly enough, he can feel Superman's powers, and he is getting stronger by just being near them. At the same time, Clark Kent suddenly feels groggy. Clark begins to double over. Lois becomes concerned, but Parasite comes to the conclusion that Superman must be near, in disguise himself. Then he sees Clark Kent shaking and looking frail. He must be Superman. Parasite decides to change his plans. With this charge up, he will go downtown, rob and plunder, and wait for Superman to tackle him. And when he does, he will have a secret hold on him: his identity. For Clark, he ignores Lois and walks away, determined to change into Superman again to investigate what exactly is going on. Moments later, in a deserted alley, Superman is back to full strength. He still has to build the hospital, but after that, he will figure out who or what was stealing his power. Sometime later, after the hospital is completed, Superman leaves the mayor's side because his super hearing has picked up a call on a nearby police car's radio. There is a one-man crime wave in the heart of the city, and he has to get there at once. Lois Lane has the exact same thought. Meanwhile, in downtown, Parasite has been running through the crowded streets, stacking his energy at a fantastic rate and ripping open bank safes with ease. Then he hears a noise. It's Superman. He commands Parasite to surrender. But when he touches down, he immediately begins to feel that same sick weakness as he did before. Parasite sheds his clothing to reveal his new costume, telling Superman that Parasite is a name he will remember. He knocks the Man of Steel back with a single blow, and it is just then that Superman realizes that Parasite is the person who's been having such a weakening effect on him. Parasite delivers blow after blow to Superman, who seems unable to defend himself. All the while, Parasite continues to taunt the Kryptonian, telling him that he, Parasite, will become invincible, invulnerable, even immortal. And as Superman tries to fight back, it only allows Parasite to drain his strength faster. But Superman does will himself to stand, which makes Parasite believe he needs to use his trump card. He will turn to everyone on the street and tell them Superman's identity. Except, how can he do that? Everyone on the street is unconscious from being near Parasite in the first place. Just then, Parasite notices that Lois Lane has arrived. He won't have to expose Superman's secret after all. He'll just make Lois his hostage. But as Parasite nears Lois, Superman swoops in to protect her, landing a single fist to Parasite's face. Now, if he can only make it to the rooftop. As Parasite sees Superman flee, he is adamant about finishing the job. He stands on the sidewalk shouting to Superman that if he does not come down, he will tell the world who he really is. Superman realizes then that Parasite must have seen Clark Kent at the hospital site and figured it out. Lois begs Superman not to confront this menace, but Superman sees no alternative. For Superman, Parasite has grown too powerful to leave unchecked. He must defeat him. As he glides down to him, Superman tries his heat vision. After all, Parasite may have stolen his strength, but not his abilities. He blasts Parasite, who merely stands there, unfazed. Then, Parasite thanks Superman for the reminder and shows that he too now has heat ray vision. Again, Parasite pummels the Man of Steel. Still, he is not yet finished. Superman desperately tries to find a chink in Parasite's armor. He decides to get some distance and runs for the street, which only amuses Parasite. Parasite then crushes Superman with a car, leaving him near unconscious on the sidewalk. But for Parasite, he is amazed and frustrated by Superman's willingness to go on, to fight, to live. Superman decides to play weaker than he is, sucker Parasite in, and as Parasite gets ready to deliver his final blow, Superman ducks, which shocks this new enemy. Superman channels all of his remaining strength into one punch, which sends Parasite through a brick wall. He then rushes the fallen criminal, but Parasite is quick to respond himself, and delivers a right hook which appears to put Superman down for good. Now, it is time to end the Guardian of Metropolis. Parasite rambles on about getting revenge on those who have wronged him, then robbing Fort Knox, maybe even the Bank of England, and then he begins to absorb Superman's full power, even his mentality, his intelligence. And just then, in a single moment, Parasite begins to drown in fear. He changes his mind and wants to run away from Superman as fast as he can, but it's too late. Parasite's internal furnace builds to a critical mass, and the inevitable result is self-combustion. Parasite dissipates in a haze of purple fume. Lois runs to comfort Superman, who explains that even though Parasite could absorb his powers, his body was still mortal, still human. It could not contain the awesome energies of a Kryptonian. Thus ends Action Comics issue number 340 and seemingly Parasite himself, at least for a while. Let's take a look at a more modern version of Parasite from 2013, Superman Volume 3, issue number 23.4, part of the New 52. We begin on a cloudy, overcast day in Suicide Slum, a most aptly named area of Metropolis. Atop a building stands a being, a purple creature with protruding teeth, wearing an overcoat. He tells us that being hungry is very painful, that it begins as emptiness, but it does not stay in your belly. It moves to your limbs, your head, then turns to rats gnawing at your very core. But now, there will be no more rats, no more emptiness, and the creature throws himself off the edge to the street below. This is Parasite. Less than 3 weeks ago, a disgruntled bike messenger races through the streets of Metropolis, cursing out pedestrians and bemoaning the citizens that make up the city. All the while, he munches on candy plucked from one of the packages he is set to deliver. His day is full of servicing what he calls morons. All they do is complain about the condition of the parcels he delivers. But he doesn't care. And as he makes a final turn at breakneck speed, he collides with a flying bumper and is knocked to the ground. He looks up and sees what can only be described as a giant booger monster, crushing cars and wrecking the neighborhood. He wasn't sure what he was thinking in that moment, but he just snapped. He let out a guttural scream at the beast. He was sick of this city, sick of this kind of crap. He threw his helmet and his bike at the creature, who snatched him up into the air. And as he was being ragdolled around, he managed to grab a loose electrical cable and jam it into the beast. It should have killed him, but it didn't. And as the bike messenger fell, his only thought was just how much he hated Metropolis. The next thing he remembers was waking up in a hospital with a broken leg. Then his life really fell apart. Can't ride, can't work. He lost his job. His friends tell him the blob was some sort of Superman virus. Then his old lady calls him and wonders how's he going to pay her back without a job. She packs. She leaves. Her final words to him, "You're such a parasite." Then the voicemails. 5 of them. Star Labs calling for Mr. Joshua Michael Allen. They need him to come down. His health may be at risk. Joshua goes down to the lab. He has to remove all 6 of his piercings. Star Labs needs to scan him for any potential residue of the virus. They begin the test. Then something goes wrong. The readings become very strong. Then Joshua begins to feel extremely hot. Then, boom. The machine explodes, and in Joshua's place is the creature we first met on that rooftop when our story began. And the medical staff are now all deceased. The emaciated purple figure walks to a mirror, looks at his image, and only has one feeling: hunger. For our new Joshua, he tried to live a normal life, met a new girl, tried a new look, but the feeding is the only thing that helped. Still, the hunger kept coming back. Then he came, Superman. He was delicious. The power coming from him made the hunger, the rats, all of it disappear. The emptiness was gone. Even when Superman blasted him with his heat vision, all it did was give him that same magnificent power. He was finally full, like a charged battery, and he unleashed his own blast on the Man of Steel, poured it on, kept it up, until he was drained again, dizzy and weak. Superman then turned the tables and used his freezing cold breath to stop Joshua once and for all. Still, even frozen, the hunger was there. The emptiness was back. He could feel the rats gnawing again. 8 months later, at Belle Rev Prison's high-risk block, Joshua was being fed 9-volt batteries. It was like eating rice cakes right after having been introduced to filet mignon. It sucked. Just then, someone rang the dinner bell. A loud explosion. Someone was breaking into the prison? A day later, a young woman drove her car past a sign welcoming visitors to Metropolis. God, Joshua hated this city. But you know what Joshua thought to himself in that moment? As the young toddler in the backseat told his tearful mother that he was hungry? Metropolis. It offers the best places to eat. Thus ends the introduction of the 5th person to be called Parasite in the DC universe. If interested in further research, and I warn you, some of this gets strange, The second and most common parasite was Rudy Jones, who was a janitor at Star Labs. Darkseid manipulated events to cause Rudy to open a waste container of toxic materials because Darkseid never forgot about the first parasite, Raymond Jensen, despite the DC reset. This is how Rudy first transformed into the beast known as Parasite. This origin was later retconned, and Rudy got his powers by eating a radioactive donut while on tour of LexCorp, a prize he won in LexCorp's daily employee lottery because this was where Rudy also worked as a janitor. Rudy would eventually get caught and experimented on. These experiments gave him shape-shifting abilities, which he used to impersonate Lois Lane to get closer to Superman. But he also used this form to apparently seduce and sleep with Lex Luthor. I told you, it gets strange. Alex and Alexandra Alston, twins, also became Parasite after being experimented on by Professor Hamilton when he turned into the villain Ruin. But that did not last long. We finally end up with Joshua Michael Allen with the emergence of the New 52 and post-Flashpoint DC. I hope that clears up some confusion. If you want more comic book fun, click on the thumbnail at the end of the video for our look back at the first ever appearance of Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, in the 3-issue story arc beginning with the Amazing Spider-Man number 50, titled Spider-Man No More. Thank you for watching. Remember, I'm still your reluctant gringo from somewhere south of the border. Salud, and a huevo.